Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Hammer Territory podcast. I am Scott Coleman. I am joined tonight by Stephen Tolbert on the show. And, Stephen, if I told you 10 days ago the Braves were going to go 5-2 against the Mets, I think we all would have taken it. But the way these last two games have gone, I don't know if anybody has a good taste in their mouth, and there are certainly a lot of things to get to on the show tonight.
Yeah, what's up, buddy? It is a weird feeling right now. You and I were just talking before we started recording. When you add in the Chris Sale injury, which changes the talent level of the team dramatically, and then you watch the fifth starter spot struggle the way it has, of course, since he went down and they replaced him with a 20-year-old, and then you watch the offense play the exact same game that we've watched this offense play, 100 times the last 2 years. Even though the overall doesn't look bad, like you just said, 5-2 against the Mets in 7 games is fantastic. The feeling is brutal, just because it doesn't feel like it's getting any better. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a ton of hope. Like, it just feels like no matter what happens, no matter what kind of stretch this offense goes through, one of these games is right around the corner every time, and usually a couple of them, quite honestly. And however good Spencer Schwellenbach and Spencer Strider are, until they get like a fifth starter that can hold their own, I don't know. This loss shouldn't matter as much as it does, but the Braves have dug themselves such a hole, and the losses look so familiar that it's really hard to be. I don't know. You're completely right. 5-2 is great in 7 games against the team that's leading the division, but it just doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, and look, man, baseball, it is a long season. And when you win a game, everything is good. And when you lose a game, all the problems are right back, especially for a team that's had the first 3 months that this team has had. And I do think it's fair to say, even though they went 5-2, if this 4-game series went Mets win, Braves win, Mets win, Braves win, it's probably a different tone on the show tonight. But tonight, and I know we talk about the offense every single show, and we will not, I promise you, we will not do a 30-minute discussion on the problems of the offense again on the show tonight. But when you lose the way they lost tonight, 3 singles, no walks, in what was effectively an emergency bullpen game for the Mets, it was lifeless. There was nothing going on. They weren't unlucky. It wasn't that the ball didn't bounce their way. It wasn't that they hit a bunch of line drives that found a glove. It was one of the 3 worst offensive showings of the entire season. And that's saying something after 80 games of watching this team try to hit every night.
Yeah, I mean, I looked in like the 8th inning. I didn't look at it after the 9th inning, but in the 8th inning, like their expected batting average for the game was like 170. Ooh. So it's not like they just were crushing the ball all night and just didn't have any luck. They literally had nothing going. I think Riley hit one hard hit ball to right center field that went nowhere, and that was about. I mean, that's the only hard hit ball I can remember, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, I mean, the Mets lost their starter in the 3rd inning. They had an emergency bullpen game. They've had a ton of arm injuries already. They've been calling up new members of the bullpen every day. If you follow the Mets at all, like the last 4 days, like they've gone like multiple transactions in their bullpen every single day. So like their bullpen is a mess. You get an emergency bullpen game, you got to cover 6 innings, and you can't even forget scoring a run. You can't even like produce a rally where they might score a run.
Yeah. A runner in scoring position.
Did they have a run? I don't think they had a runner in scoring position.
Eli White was in scoring position for about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
He singled and then advanced on a de facto sac fly, but then Nick Allen and Acuña did not do anything else.
Yeah. And then, by the way, this game right here is what happens lately. If Acuña and Olsen don't have good games, this is the game that you get right now, because Acuña and Olsen are the only 2 that are hitting. And tonight, neither one had a good game. And so the Braves don't even come close to scoring runs. And this is the problem with only having 2 guys who are hot at one time, is that Acuña is not going to run a 1,200 OPS all year. Like, he's not. It's not going to happen. He's going to, like, other dudes are going to have to step up at some point.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just a brutal. I mean, I actually kept this game on the whole time because I knew we were doing the podcast. But if we weren't doing this podcast, this is not a game I would have hung around for, especially after it got 4-0.
Yeah. I think you were probably not alone in people who turned this one off after maybe the 7th inning. Just one of those nights, and just another Another just kind of gut punch when it felt like, hey, they were 5-0 against New York. Here we go. Braves have figured some things out. And then we have more of an understandable loss on Wednesday. I don't know if many folks were really expecting to win a Clay Holmes versus Didier Fuentes start. But tonight, it was more 50-50, especially when the Mets lost their starter after 3 innings tonight. And one of those things. And, you mentioned sticking with the game for 9 innings tonight, Stephen. One of the things that kind of came into my mind when I was watching this offense just do whatever is this offense tries to do in the batter's box is, do you consider changing up the batting order? Now, I would say I don't think they necessarily need to do this until Jurickson Profar comes back a week from now because of Profar's on-base skills and the presumed massive upgrade offensively he's going to be in left field. But, and I tweeted this and I got a lot of feedback both for and against, but do you consider changing up this lineup? Do you consider moving Acuña from the leadoff spot where he has been quite literally every game since the middle of 2018? Do you drop Acuña back so he comes up with more runners on base? Do you drop Olson a little bit behind some guys with more on base so then you might run into a 3-run homer? Do you drop Austin Riley, who is just lost up there right now? I mean, is that an overreaction at this point, or is it worth exploring changing things up a bit?
If this was last year, I would say it's an overreaction. But now that we've done this for 2 years now, and I know the last year there was injuries, but obviously anybody who watched last year knew there was something wrong with the offense long before the injuries kicked in. And now that we watched this for 2 years, I think that's a merited. I think that's something that they should seriously consider. Not because it's going to magically fix it, but like, what do you have to lose? Like, what are you risking? By changing. It's not like you're risking, what are they going to do? Not score? I mean, that's what they've done for 2 years now. So yeah, I've actually thought about this a lot with Acuña specifically, not so much in the context of the whole lineup, but with Acuña specifically, if he wasn't going to run as much, if it made sense to leave him in the leadoff spot, because you're just losing that aspect. And now he comes up to bat with nobody on base so often that it does not make more sense to bat him 2 or 3 anyways. Now you can't do that until Profar comes up because there's literally no one in the lineup that can even pretend to lead off. Yeah. Maybe Drake Baldwin, but he's not even a full-time player. So you're right. You would have to wait until Profar comes back. When Profar comes back, I would be very tempted to try it, where I put Acuña 3, maybe put Olson 4, maybe put like Profar and I don't know, Baldwin. I mean, coming up with 2 guys to put in front of Acuña is damn near impossible to begin with. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate that. I mean, I would try it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, last year there were the offensive woes, and I think last year and this year are very different. The Braves are healthy.
Yeah,
I know they just got Acuña back a month ago, but Olson's healthy. Riley's healthy. I know Ozuna's playing with a hip, but he's out there every day. Murphy has been healthy since a week into the year. Baldwin's healthy. I mean, Harris is healthy. He had injuries last year. Albies is healthy. He had injuries last year. So I think last year's season kind of gets a pass, even as frustrating as it was. That team was literally healthy for about 5 innings until Murphy blew his oblique on opening day. And then from then, it was just the avalanche. But this season, like I think you said it perfectly, what do you have to lose by shaking up this lineup? Put a couple of really good on-base players at the top with Profar and Baldwin. Now, on the days when Sean Murphy plays, I don't know if you necessarily put Murphy second, but that's a discussion probably for a week or 2 from now. But put Acuña third, Olson fourth. At least then you probably have runners on base more times than not. Because I swear, as unbelievable as Acuña is, it feels like when he hits a homer, it's a solo homer. Because God knows Michael Harris is not getting on base. Or Nick Allen is not getting on base. Although even Nick Allen's been a little better lately. Ozzie Albies is not getting on base. Whoever's in left field that night is not getting on base. It's a lot of solo homers. And whenever Olson comes up, it feels like the only guy on base is Ronald Acuña Jr. Why not? You're, what are they, 6 games out of a playoff spot, 10 games back in the East. This is the halfway point. It is now or never, man. They're going to keep screwing around and look up and be mathematically improbable to make the playoffs at this point because they can't score. They just can't.
Well, especially when you don't have when you have so many guys locked into long-term deals where you have very little flexibility in terms of switching players in and out. Like it'd be one thing if a bunch of these guys were, still on pre-arb contracts and had options and you had, other minor leaguers that were maybe ready to come up, or you had very little commitment to these guys and you could switch them out. That's not the Braves situation at all. They have so many long-term contracts. Like about the only thing you can do is switch up the order, quite honest. I mean, unless they find a shortstop, I don't know where you're going to find a shortstop in the middle. I mean, trying to acquire a shortstop is almost impossible. Left field, you have Profar locked in for 2 years. Harris, Acuña, Riley, Olson, Murphy, Ozzie. Like, there's nowhere else to switch a player up unless they're actually going to trade away one of these guys under control. And Alex basically put his reputation on the line about a week ago saying they're absolutely not going to do that. So, yeah, I mean, what else do you have to do? Honestly, that's about the only choice you have is try to switch up the lineup a little bit. And I'm for it. I would 100% try it.
Yeah. And even if you did make some personnel changes, say you send Michael Harris to Gwinnett for 2 weeks, okay, you're getting Eli White in center field more than likely, or Carlos Rodriguez. Those guys are not going to come up and suddenly run an 800 OPS and change things around. And I don't know. It feels like we're getting awfully close, especially once you get Profar in the mix. Let's try something new. Why not? I know it's unconventional. I know Brian Snitker is as milquetoast as it gets, and he likes to do things the same way every single day. And there's probably something to be said for when things are going well, you don't wake the sleeping baby. But this is not a sleeping baby. This is a screaming infant at 4 a.m. who hasn't stopped crying for 2 hours. I mean, I feel like Sean, I'm making him up on the fly, but why not? I mean, that maybe that's the whole, to put a bow on this, why not make a change when you're watching seemingly every other night, the offense scores 1 run or no runs.
Yeah. And listen, it's very difficult to create depth in a lineup that has no depth. Like when you have 2 guys hitting, it's very hard to just create depth out of nowhere. But that's why Profar coming back is important, because it's going to take one of those guys out of left field. We're probably not going to get into this tonight, but we're going to get into it at some point. It's probably best to send Michael down when Profar comes up, let Eli White play center field for a couple of weeks. But at least you have a legitimate hitter in left field for the first time all year. Sean and I talked about this a couple of days ago. I would play Baldwin more at catcher. Yeah. Baldwin is just substantially better at the plate right now than Murphy. This is a pro Murphy podcast. It has been for 2 years, but right now Baldwin is better. And right now you need the guy, whoever's hitting needs to play. Like it doesn't matter what contract. If you're hitting, you play. And Baldwin's hitting and Murphy's not. So I would 100%, obviously when Profar comes back, he's going to play. I'd put Eli White in center. I'd put Baldwin at catcher. I'd screw around with the lineup. I'd put Acuña 2, 3, 4 somewhere and just try it. Again, what do you have to lose?
Yeah. All right, Stephen. Well, that is probably enough offense bad talk for one show. We promised to not do 30 minutes. So we did get a little bit in tonight, but we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to hear from our sponsors, but we do have some pretty fun news that we're going to talk about on the horizon. Also have a pretty important series against the Phillies this weekend coming up. So stick with us. Quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
FT fam, did you know that Huel has sold over 500 million meals around the world, and now it is your turn to try it. While I drink it.
Drink up, Scott, so I can discuss Huel and how I love it. I had some for breakfast this morning. I like to drink it post-workout because of the protein included in it. It always tastes delicious, whether it's strawberry, banana, chocolate, vanilla, whatever the flavor is. It tastes like a dessert, honestly. It should not taste as good as it does.
I agree. New customers get 15% off plus a free gift at Huel.com when you use the FT code. That is FOUL, F-O-U-L, at Huel.com/FOUL. Don't miss out. Try Huel today for a perfectly balanced meal. If you miss a meal, if you're looking for a little protein boost, you just saw me drinking the Black Edition ready to drink. There's the vanilla flavor. I love what the chocolate brings to the table. It's really damn good. So give it a shot, FT fam. 15% off plus a free gift for new customers with the code FOUL.
All right, Stephen, some news here that we wanted to hit on. Pretty fun news. In case you didn't know, Ronald Acuña Jr. is back with a vengeance, and 2 notes with Acuña related to the All-Star game, which is quickly approaching. Acuña is officially in the home run derby, which is really exciting. Acuña has done it in the past. He actually has not fared super well in the home run derby, but it's going to be exciting. I'm thrilled that Acuña is not only going to participate, but that medically, like the medical team has cleared him and they feel like he's good to play in that. It's going to be exciting. Give us a reason to tune in, and it'll be so much fun. And you know that Truist Park is going to be fully behind Ronald whenever he goes up there.
Yeah, I don't know if they always do it, but it seems like the All-Star game is not like my number one thing to watch, but it seems like for the home run derby, they try to have a hometown guy in the lineup at some point and somewhere in the contest just to give it a little bit of a vibe. So I was not surprised at all. I actually thought maybe Matt Olson or Acuña or maybe both would be in it. So it didn't surprise me. Like you just said, the biggest thing is the medical staff cleared him to do it, which means everybody's really happy and comfortable with it, where that knee's at. I'm very curious to see. Ronald has a lot of friends in the league. Like now that Ronald's doing it, like Ronald, I don't know if fans know this, but Ronald Acuña Jr. and Juan Soto are like best friends. So
yeah,
I know Braves fans and Mets fans hate each other, but like those 2 guys are like best friends. So it would not surprise me at all if Juan Soto did it just as a competition. And what would be cool is if that like kind of got a ball rolling with like some of the best players in baseball, like if Judge or Ohtani did it with those 2 guys. Can you imagine how fun that? Like it'd be like an old school home run derby where legitimately the best home run hitters in the game did it. So
you don't have like Alec Bohm. Wasn't Alec Bohm in it like 2 years ago? It's like, what are we doing, guys?
Yeah, they were down to like their 20th name on the list because everybody said no. So I'm kind of hoping Acuña doing it maybe stops that. I mean, that's honestly what's turned the home run derby into kind of unwatchable. Is a lot of the best players just don't do it anymore. It's like the dunk contest in basketball. So yeah, that was cool news. And then obviously that, I think he moved up to the 3rd spot in the NL outfielders. Listen, he deserves it. He's been one of the best. I mean, I think he's been, I haven't looked in a couple of days, but a couple of days ago when I looked, he's been the best player in baseball since he came up. I know Corbin Carroll broke his wrist, which sucks. I hate that. That's obviously, but obviously that impacts the National League outfield situation. Pete Crow Armstrong has been incredible in Chicago. The Dodgers' entire team is going to be in the All. I don't know if you've noticed, but literally every starter for the Dodgers, I think, is in the 1 or 2 in voting in the All-Star game. But yeah, good for Acuña. That's awesome. He deserves it. He's played like a monster since being up. I'm glad he's being recognized for it. And I would love for his presence in the home run derby to maybe add a couple of bigger names and turn that into a real event.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point. And if Ronald wants to get the big boys going, then why not? If a former MVP who has had 2 knee surgeries in 4 years can do it, then let's get Aaron Judge out there.
Get Aaron Judge, let's get Ohtani, let's get them all.
Yeah, let's do it. Man, if you had tickets for that event in Atlanta, oh my God, that would be pretty fun. You mentioned Acuña did advance to the final round of All-Star voting. I have to think Ronald's going to get in. He's seemingly in national headlines, or like the MLB Twitter account is posting a homer every other night for Ronald. So I think he'll get in, especially being the hometown representative. Other than Ronald, I mean, they might get a couple guys in for injury replacements, or guys just don't want to do it, or something like that. And I think Schwellenbach has a decent chance at getting in. No Chris Sale, which is a bummer, especially because it's in Atlanta. But I'm going to guess Schwellenbach probably gets there, and maybe Matt Olson gets in if something comes up. Or, I mean, that's kind of it, isn't it? Am I missing anybody obvious? I don't think I am.
Ozuna seemed like a lock in the first month of the year, but he has just fallen off a mountain.
Yeah.
And it was always going to be tough for him with Ohtani and Schwarber already there. Matt Olson probably deserves to be there. I think Matt Olson actually leads all first basemen in WAR, but he's kind of come on late. He had a kind of that rough start. And sometimes like the fan voting gets suppressed if that's the case. And listen, Braves fans, they're not exactly out voting in force for this team right now. This team is not giving Braves fans a lot of reason to go out and, just start, punching ballot. Like we've seen in the past when the Braves are really good, the Braves fan base is as big as anybody. They can stuff the ballots.
Oh,
we put Omar Infante and Orlando Arcia in the All-Star game before, if you remember.
Yep.
So like this fan base can do it when they want to, but there's just not been a lot of motivation to. And honestly, other than Olsen and Acuña, there's not really any player you could vote on to begin with. So I kind of hope Matt gets there just because the game's in Atlanta. That would be cool. I also think there's a chance Matt would do the home run derby. But yeah, is it him, Acuña, and Swellenbacher? That's going to be it. And then it might not be that many.
And I will say it will be an interesting vibe at Truist Park at the All-Star game. And I know it's an exhibition. I know some people are really into it and some people could not care less. But Max Fried is probably going to be the American League starting pitcher, and he deserves it. And I'm guessing Freddie Freeman is probably going to be the starting first baseman. So yeah, there's some old, I don't even know what the right word is, some old wounds maybe that might get picked at a little bit over All-Star weekend. And for a team that's not having the greatest first half, and for a celebratory event, and it still will be, Freddie will get a big ovation, Max Fried will get a big ovation. Nobody blames Max for taking $218 million to go play in New York City in his 30s. But yeah, just I was thinking about that earlier today, and I was like, oh man, that might be a little awkward, a little weird. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it.
No, I mean, I thought about that too when Freddie was, I don't know. Freddie's actually cooled off quite a bit. That's why Matt passed him in WAR. It might be Alonso. Alonso's having a monster year for the Mets. And that would obviously take care, when you're a starter, they announce you on the field. And so like, there's this big, like, either ovation or booing. So if it's Freeman, it is going to be very interesting. Obviously Acuña and Freeman being in the same lineup again, that would be funny. Max Fried's going to get cheered no matter what. Like you said, no, with Freddie, it was always weird because it kind of felt like for a lot of people, he wanted to leave. He wanted to be in New York or in LA. With Max, everybody knew like the Yankees offer just blew everybody else out of the water. You had to accept that offer. Like I don't think there's ever going to be any bad blood between Braves fans and Max, but yeah, that will be interesting if there's a couple of ex-Braves, especially in a season where the Braves are playing like crap for most of it.
Yeah. That's pretty much it on the news front, Steven. There was a little bit of news down in Gwinnett today that was not great. Nacho Alvarez left the game with a strained oblique. Nacho missed the first 2 months of the season with an injury. And now he's hurt again. Not that he has an obvious place to come up and play, but I mean, frankly, if the Braves are out of this thing come September 1st, why not call up Nacho and play him at second base some or third base? Just get him reps somewhere on the infield because, frankly, they might want to see what they have with him before going into the offseason and having to make some difficult decisions.
Yeah, we're not quite ready to do it yet, but the Ozzy conversation is going to have to be had at some point about what do you do? I mean, what do you do with Ozzy? Everybody knows he's on a dirt cheap contract, and it's not so much about the money, but yeah, it's going to be a fascinating situation what they do with Ozzy. And like you said, having somebody else in house that could potentially play that position, you would like to know for sure what you have. Nacho's been hurt a lot, kind of a concerning amount, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
you don't want to slap a injury prone tag on a player, but he's been pretty injury prone. And Alex has talked about before, like that games played column is one of his most important, as Matt Olson is about to, I think Matt Olson is still the Iron Man in baseball these days. That games played column means a lot to Alex. And so it is going to be, I agree with you. If they had fallen out of it, I think Nacho would have come up. It's an oblique injury. It's not like it's a season ending injury or anything, but obliques could take a couple months, depending on how severe it is. So yeah, that sucked. He got pulled from the game today and everybody kind of noted it. And, maybe it was a trade or something, but no, he hurt himself. Yeah. That second base conversation, what they do with Ozzy, what they do at second base over the next 3 months, especially if the season keeps going like this, that conversation is going to get real interesting.
That will probably be a standalone 30 to 45 minute conversation with at least two of us, if not three of us on the podcast, because that is a big time decision coming down. I mean, frankly, this upcoming offseason, you and I could probably do 3 hours tonight on everything that needs to be addressed this offseason, but we won't do it tonight. Still half a season to go. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a fascinating and very, very, very important offseason coming up for the Braves.
And listen, if nothing else, like the Braves just have so few positions where they can actually go out and upgrade anything. Like, and Ozzy is one of those few spots that can. And like, even if you're not saving a ton of money, they might just decide like this is one of the few spots where we can actually go get better. Where we can't. We got to try Michael Harris another year at center. We owe him too much money. We got to try Sean Murphy. We got to Profar. Riley. Yeah, exactly. DH and second base might be the only two spots where you can like legitimately go and upgrade. Shortstop is almost impossible to upgrade, like we talked about for multiple years now. So yeah, they might look at Ozzy and Ozuna and be like, listen, we love you guys, but like we got to go get better somewhere. And your two positions are the only two we got. So it is going to be fascinating. And listen, Ozzy has not made him, Ozzy could put all this to bed by just playing like Ozzy Albies again, and we never thought we'd get to the point where we were talking about, would they maybe not pick up one of those options? They're so dirt cheap. But I mean, that's just how bad the offense has been. That's how bad Ozzy's been. Quite honestly, he hasn't hit a homer in like 2 months. I don't know what's happened to his power. But yeah, it is going to be a fascinating, that specific question, and then all the other ones behind it.
So if you are not already subscribed or following this podcast, please hit that subscribe button. So whenever we do that podcast, it will be in your feeds. Stephen, we are going to take a quick break here, hear from our sponsors, and then we're going to talk a little bit, probably pretty brief, on these last two games, and then talk about a very important weekend series back at home with the Phillies. We'll be right back.
Well, if you're a normal human, you can't speak English to your pup. But what you can do to understand what they love, which is Spot and Tango Unkibble, is to see how they react when you put the Unkibble in the bowl. And my pup, Penelope, loves it. So does Bella.
Well, Bella speaks Spanish, so she says, muy bien. I love this stuff.
She says, wow, Dad, thanks for creating a custom plan based on my age, weight, breed, and activity level. You nailed it. And also, it's made with 100% whole fresh ingredients like real USDA meats, fruits, and veggies, but it's 40% less expensive than frozen food. So upgrade your pet's bowl with Spot and Tango Unkibble. And for a limited time, go to spotandtango.com/foul and use code FOUL for 50% off your first order. That's spotandtango.com/foul, code FOUL to get 50% off your first order.
All right, Stephen, we will not spend 8 hours on these last two games. Let's hit Wednesday's game. Not a horrible loss. On paper, Didier Fuentes versus Clay Holmes. Biggest game the Mets were favored in. Holmes has been good. Didier should be finishing up his sophomore year of college, quite honestly. Most of the kids playing in the College World Series last week are older than Didier Fuentes. He has, 2 starts above A-ball or something like that under his belt. So he did not pitch well. It was a tough spot. That New York lineup with Alonso and Soto and Nimmo and Lindor, that's a really tough lineup to pitch to. I don't know. It seems like, based on Brian Snitker's comments today, that Didier is going to remain in the rotation for now. I wanted to know kind of where you were at with him, and I guess your comfort level, also acknowledging that there is basically nothing left in Gwinnett because of all the injuries this team has.
Yeah, I don't think he's a major league pitcher at this point, but I don't think the Braves have a major, like the other options for people that I don't know, or like Ian Anderson was in AAA at one point. I think he's hurt right now.
Yep.
Like there's like Jackson Stevens. Like there's no, everybody talks about Hurston Waldrop. Hurston Waldrop's going through his own like growing pains as a prospect. Not been the greatest season for him. There's actually some talk about him being potentially a reliever. It's just, there's not a lot of, the fact that they called up a 20-year-old kid at all should tell you exactly what they have in AAA, which is not much. So no, I don't think he should be in the majors, but I understand why the team is doing it because he's probably the most talented guy. And if you're like, who could possibly give me the best start? I can understand why they land on him. You and I talked about it the day that Chris Sale got hurt. We did the emergency show. I think the Braves need to go get an external fifth starter. Nobody who's any good, but is like had major league success, is not 20 years old and can just, survive as a fifth starter in your rotation. I think that's what the Braves need to do. They obviously, I'm sure they've tried. I don't love Didier, starting. And Brian Snitker said today that as far as he knows, he's going to make the next start. I will say to that, I saw a lot of people responding to that. He's not going to know that Alex is making a move until he makes him. Like, it's not like Alex is saying, I'm going to make a move tomorrow. So, if you get asked about Fuentes, that's not going to happen. Like he's not going to actually say anything until Alex has already made a move and Fuentes is back in the minor leagues. So just because Snit said that, I don't know for sure that Fuentes is actually going to make another start, but I would try to go get somebody else. I would let this 20-year-old kid keep developing in AAA. Well, that's where he needs to be. But I understand their logic where they literally don't have anybody better at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, I mean, obviously you're trying to win games now, but you're also trying to think about the future.
Yeah.
And I would think, based on what we've heard about Didier from Gore of the Deck on the show, that he has really strong makeup and he's a smart kid and he works really hard. So you would think that if he has a bad couple of starts, it won't set him back 3 years in his development. But he should be in Gwinnett. He should be learning how to work off his fastball and develop his secondary pitches and not pitching in front of 40,000 people.
To Juan Soto.
Right. Yeah. Like that first pitch, Soto hit a first pitch fastball. And I mean, that's like your welcome to the majors moment right there.
That is the greatest player that Didier Fuentes has ever laid eyes on. Like those two guys should not be in the same league at the moment.
Right. Yes. So we'll see if Fuentes makes another start. It would presumably be on Tuesday at home against the Angels, who are not very good. The offense is bottom 10, so it's certainly an easier spot for him. So we'll see what the weekend holds, if the Braves make any move or if it's Fuentes again. Wednesday night, Drake Baldwin had an unbelievable homer, slider down in the zone, and he hit it 433 feet to dead center. I couldn't believe it went that far. Other than that, both Acuña and Olsen got on base 3 times, and the duo of Ozuna and Riley went 0 for 9. And if that doesn't sum up the state of this team offensively, Drake Baldwin does something really cool. Acuña gets on base 3 times. Olsen gets on base 3 times, and nothing else. That is the 2025 Atlanta Braves encapsulated perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to build a case for what you were talking about earlier about changing around the lineup, like I think Exhibit A might literally be Wednesday's game, where you just like Acuña's he's on base all the time, but there's no one in front of him. The only person that's ever in front of Olsen is Acuña. So, yeah, I mean, that was a really, really perfect microcosm for what you're talking about. And yeah, that slider away that Drake Baldwin hit. It's not like he hooked it down the line either. He hit that thing like 435 feet to dead center.
Yeah.
On a slider away, which is insane. I mean, that was
against a pretty good pitcher too.
A fantastic pitcher. Yeah. I mean, that was that was one of the craziest. That was like an Acuña homer where you're like, how in the hell did he hit that ball that far? Mm-hmm. Baldwin's just different. And listen, I love Sean Murphy. I've defended Sean Murphy endlessly. I will be the first to say, and I've said it multiple times on this podcast, you have to play Drake Baldwin right now. He's just better. He's just a better hitter right now. Maybe it's just he's a hotter hitter, but if that's the case, that's fine. Still got to play him. You got to play the hotter hitter. I would play Drake Baldwin 4 out of 5 starts right now, unless there's a lefty on the mound, and even then, I might still play him. You got to score runs. So, and yeah, I mean, he's really picked it up. He went through a little bit of a lull. But he went into that Miami series. He got hot in that Miami series. He's done well in the Mets series. I'd play him more.
Yeah. And just when the lineup comes out, it looks so much better when Drake Baldwin is there.
Yeah.
Whether he's batting second, whether he's batting fifth. I mean, hell, bat him third at this point, behind Acuña and Olsen.
Yeah.
Again, back to the whole why not? Let's try something different, because there's 3 guys in this lineup hitting. And that's basically it.
And I'll say this, like, I don't know, like, you might disagree. I don't know. This team is just capped. If Riley and Ozuna are hitting like this, like there's just a lack of talent that I never thought I would talk about with this team. But like with Ozzy, Riley, Ozuna, and Harris hitting like this, like there's a talent deficiency. And Riley and Ozuna specifically, like you can live with Ozzy and Michael being bad if Acuna, Olsen, Riley, and Ozuna are all good. It's tough when Ozuna and Riley are like consistently failing in big spots, like we've seen over the last month. Ozuna has like a 50 WRC plus over the last month. Riley's is like a 70. Like it's not much better. And like I just don't know how far this team can go if those two guys specifically are going to play like this.
Yeah. Your stars have to play like stars.
Yeah.
And it is anything but. After tonight, on the season, Austin Riley is down to a 750 OPS and a 108 WRC plus. And that's with a pretty lucky 350 batting average on balls in play. I mean, I don't know. Well, Riley, dear Lord, brother, it's going to be July in 5 days. We need a patented Austin Riley July like the desert needs rain. I mean, it would change so many things. The dynamic of this team, if Riley can heat up, I know Ozuna's playing through the hip, but hopefully Ozuna picks it up, and then you get Profar in there, hopefully hitting the way he is hit in Gwinnett. That would just change so much. Because I agree. I think this is a lost season for Michael Harris. I have not seen a thing that makes me think he's going to come out of it. He's gotten worse. You pointed it out earlier today. He was bad for 2 months, and he has somehow gotten even worse.
Substantially worse.
Yes. Nick Allen, a glove-first shortstop who was acquired for a 24-year-old injured relief prospect, is out hitting Michael Harris. I don't know, man. We'll move on. Let's briefly, because there's not much to talk about on Thursday's game. The Braves lose 4-0. Let's give Grant Holmes his flowers, because this was a great stat that our good friend Brad Rowland dug up. But Holmes only gave up 2 runs on Thursday night. This is now 9 starts in a row where Grant Holmes has given up 3 earned runs or fewer. You cannot ask for anything more from a guy who was a journeyman up until last season and is now your number 3 starter out of sheer necessity. I mean, again, good on Grant Holmes. He did his job tonight. If this team would just score some effing runs, we should be talking about Grant Holmes getting a win tonight after only giving up 2 runs over 5 innings. Instead, more of the same, a loss. But Grant Holmes has been great, and we want to give him a shout out.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to eat some crow on Grant Holmes. He's just substantially better than I ever thought he would be. Like I was a pretty big doubter in spring training. It was kind of my thesis for why I thought the Braves need to be more aggressive in the starting pitching market. Was 1, I was afraid of injuries for Lopez and Sale and Schwellenbach, but 2, I was not a believer in Grant Holmes, to be quite honest. And he's just been awesome. And like at some point, you're just gonna have to admit you were wrong. And like he's just good. His slider is really good. You know, he's got like a sneaky, like 95, 96 mile an hour fastball that you might not expect if you don't know him. Curveball, like he's just solid. And my God, do the Braves need it?
Yeah.
I mean, with Sale, with Lopez, with AJ Smith-Shawver, now they've got Elder and a 20-year-old in the rotation. Like if Grant Holmes was going through it, if Grant Holmes was struggling, I don't know where we'd be mentally. I mean, we might already be checked out of this season. And I know we're already kind of checked out. We might be totally checked out if Grant Holmes wasn't pitching like this. But like he just keeps giving him a chance to win. And like you just said, man, he deserves flowers for that. He deserves all the credit in the world. I was wrong. Much better starting pitcher than I thought. I thought he'd be a kind of a more of a reliever type. I thought he'd be a really good reliever and struggle as a starter. He's been a fantastic starter. So all the credit to Grant.
Yeah, so nice job to Grant tonight. And I mean, that was basically it in terms of the positives. Braves had 3 singles. They made 16 consecutive outs from the 4th inning up until the 9th inning when Matt Olson hit a 2-out single that was erased just moments later. And I mean, I don't know, Stephen, if you have any other thoughts about tonight's game, please, by all means. But just a real bummer going into now a 10-day 9-game homestand that is very, very important for this team. And, against 2 innings of Griffin Canning, and I really hope the best for Canning. That was a scary injury for him. And then an emergency bullpen game, and they could not do anything. Just, one of those nights.
Yeah, it does suck for Canning. I mean, almost certainly just ruptured his Achilles, which is like that injury is just popping off. I don't know what's going on with all the Achilles injuries in sports lately, but
Yeah.
But that looked like a pretty classic, like Mike Soroka. I think every Braves fan watching that like immediately had PTSD. Like, oh God, like not like I don't care if he's a Mets player. Like I can't watch that because we watched it, with one of our favorite sons a couple of years ago. But yeah, just a brutal game. I mean, just a lifeless. I mean, as lifeless as a game as the Braves have played all year, and they've played some like corpse level games already this year. And good Lord, I mean, just they basically took the day off. They played a game, but they took the day off. Or at least the offense did. And I don't know why this team has these in them, but and this is why I have a hard time getting too excited about any kind of run they go on, because it just always feels like this game is coming. And it always happens right when like momentum is really starting to peak. You're about to sweep the Rockies and then you get beat 2-1 by the Colorado Rockies. You're about to, really take off, and then you score 3 runs total in 2 games against Miami. Man, we've got all this momentum against the Mets, and we just come out and lay an absolute it's just over and over again. Anytime this team gets any momentum, this game is just around the corner inevitably, and it's just one of the most frustrating parts about being a Braves fan in the last 2 years.
All right, Steven, we are going to wrap up the show here with a quick preview of this weekend series against the Philadelphia Phillies, who are virtually tied with the Mets atop the NL East. The Phillies actually just got swept down in Houston. Kind of a crazy, bizarre, almost Braves-like sweep. The Phillies gave up 5 runs. The pitching staff gave up 5 runs in 3 games, and they got swept. The Phillies were shut out on Tuesday and Wednesday. They scored 1 run on Thursday and lost all 3. So I don't know what to make of that, other than that is excruciating, and an excruciating way to lose a couple of baseball games. But as we have said for a couple of weeks now, a very important end to these 2 weeks of division foe opponents for the Braves. Hopefully Atlanta can go home. It's going to be a late night. They're not going to get home till probably 2 a.m. or something like that. But hopefully they can go out there and win at least 2 out of 3 against Philly this weekend.
Yeah, these night games on getaway day that the Braves have done like 3 or 4 times this year are weird to me. I don't really get why they keep playing these night games when they have to travel. I mean, I get it's about time zones and how many time zones you have to travel, but this is going to be another where the Braves get into Atlanta at like 3 a.m. and then play a game that night. The Braves do get the favorable pitching side of the matchups. They miss Zach Wheeler and Christopher Sanchez in this series against Phillies, which I could count on one hand the number of times the Braves have ever missed Zach Wheeler in a Phillies series. So they'll have Strider and Swellenbach pitching, and they won't see Wheeler or Sanchez. And so, like, in terms of setup, you're at home, you're throwing your 2 best guys, you're missing their 2 best guys. Like, everything sets up for you to do pretty well here, but it's the 2025 Atlanta Braves. So you figure out what they're going to do, because we certainly can't.
Yeah, right. If we had all the answers, man, I would love to know what team is going to show up this night. Is it the team that put together the great comeback rally on Monday and scored 7 runs, or is it the team that gets 3 singles against a bullpen game? We'll never know. Pitching matchups, you mentioned no Zach Wheeler, although funny enough, the Braves have actually smoked Wheeler the 2 times they saw him. Although I'm happy. I don't want to see that guy. He is as good as anybody the last 5 years in Major League Baseball. And no Christopher Sanchez, who just kind of out of nowhere has become one of the better lefty starters in baseball the last year or 2.
He's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. Phillies do a good job developing pitching. They can't really develop hitters. They basically just buy their lineup, but they can develop some pitching or sign pitchers and get them to be even better than what they were before.
Yeah.
Aaron Nola is also hurt, or he was hurt last time I checked, so he's not pitching. Friday is going to be a little hairy. It's going to be Bryce Elder, who talk about Jekyll and Hyde. It had that incredible start against the Giants, but then has gotten lit up his last 2 starts. It'll be Bryce Elder against Mick Abel, who is a former first-round pick for the Phillies, making his 6th major league start. His numbers are kind of all over the place this year, has given up a lot of homers, so just maybe the Braves could hit a couple homers. Maybe that's wishful thinking. So that's Friday, Elder against Abel. Saturday is probably the best pitching matchup, or, well, there's 2 really good ones. It's going to be Spencer Schwallenbach against Jesus Luzardo. And then Sunday is Spencer Strider against Ranger Suarez, who is somebody else the Atlanta Braves are like physically incapable of hitting for years now. And Ranger Suarez is a good pitcher, don't get me wrong, but he turns into prime Tom Glavine against the Braves. So should be maybe not a great pitching matchup on Friday, but games 2 and 3 have about as good as you're going to see in terms of starting pitching matchups.
Yeah, and listen, the Braves know, obviously they know Sanchez. They've faced off against Sanchez a million times, but they also know Luzardo. Luzardo came from the Marlins and has had a good year with Philadelphia, his first year in Philadelphia, but the Braves are very familiar. So there should be no surprises. I know on Friday night they're playing a rookie, but Schwallenbach, Strider, Saturday, Sunday. It comes, I mean, I hate to say it. I really hate to say it, but it's all about the offense. It just comes down to like, I expect Spencer Schwallenbach and Spencer Strider to throw 2 games where you have a chance to win, like they have most of the time, if your offense does anything. And I have no clue literally, I have no clue which offense is going to show up. If it's got life at all, if Riley and Ozuna are ever going to find it, if Michael Harris can remember how to hit a baseball. Like, are we just going to do if Acuña and Olsen have good games and we can win? If they don't, they're going to lose. I don't know. There's 2 lefties. Luzardo and Suarez are both left-handed. So, like, is Baldwin going to sit for this series? I don't know. I don't know what they're going to. Yeah, I don't know. So, it just comes down to the offense. It just comes down to like, even the bullpen has kind of stabilized a little bit. It really just comes down to the offense at this point.
Yeah. 2 lefties does probably mean not much Alex Verdugo this weekend, which is a win for all of America. God bless. I really hope they hit him with the DFA when Profar comes back. He is as advertised bad, which is not always what you hear in baseball circles, but goodness, maybe it's just my own personal vendetta, but I think I am not alone against Alex Verdugo.
Braves somehow between Kelenic and Verdugo, the Braves have somehow found some of the worst outfielders I've ever seen.
Yeah,
in consecutive years, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and it's funny. I looked up Kelenic the other day. He is hitting like a $195 with a sub 600 OPS. The last time I looked with Gwinnett. I think we can probably pull the plug on that. I understand what the Braves are trying to do, cost-controlled, former top prospect, top pick, but that just, capital letters, did not work out.
And they're still paying David Fletcher like $7 million to pitch in Gwinnett or what. I don't know what he's doing now, but
yeah.
And all that was to get Kelenic.
Yes, yeah, not one in the win column for Alex Anthopoulos, even if it did. I mean, it was money and it was opportunity cost because they could have gone and imagine if they would have added Teoscar Hernandez to left field.
Yeah.
Instead
And that's really where you pay is not the money you gave up, but the guy you didn't go get.
Yeah. Yes. But alas, let's hope Jurickson Profar, the savior, fresh off a PED suspension. Let's hope he is the savior of this lineup. Stephen, that's going to do it for us tonight. We kept this a PG-rated show. We probably could have gotten pretty dark, but I think we tried to keep it as upbeat as we could. If you have anything to plug, sir, please do, and tell folks where they can find your great work if they are not doing so already.
Yeah, B_Outliers is the X handle. Just appreciate the listeners, the subscribers, the people who download. We're about to pass 1 million downloads. I know you guys don't care about numbers, but like that's a pretty big milestone that we're about to pass on this show. The support that you guys have given us has just been, quite frankly, unreal, especially at times considering how mediocre the team has been. So just big shout out. We appreciate it. We're going to be here no matter what, win, lose, sellers, buyers, whatever. We're going to cover the game. So we appreciate the support.
We really do. I will echo everything that Stephen just said. I think the plan is for Brad and I to do a show in our usual Sunday slot. Let's hope that the Braves can win the series this weekend against Philadelphia. I know the last 2 games against New York were not what we wanted, but again, 10 days ago, if I would have told you, person listening to this show, the Braves were going to go 5-2 against the New York Mets, I think we all would have said happily that we would take it. So let's keep it rolling against the Phillies this weekend. 9 home games in the next 10 days. You have the Phillies, then you have the Angels, who are very beatable. Then you have the Orioles, who are the biggest disappointment of baseball. There's an opportunity here for the Braves before the All-Star break, but they need to take advantage and win a couple of games here, keep winning series. That's going to do it for us on the podcast tonight. Again, a big thank you to everybody for tuning in. I'm Scott Coleman, and we will see everybody next time.